3 from each of the centers were trained. They have conducted periodic quality audits in vocational training centers to ensure compliance and provide advice on continuous improvement. There has been an engagement of county government as the stakeholders during these standard developments. These include guidelines and standards on CBET, recognition of prior learning policies, trainers' qualification framework, national polytechnics requirements and guidelines, open distance e-learning known as ODEL, centers of excellence, CBET assessment centers, competency-based assessment tools, recognition and equation of TVET qualifications, and industrial attachment. Mr. Speaker, to the second part of that question, Mr. Speaker, there are 1,156 vocational training centers across all the 47 counties in Kenya, with a total enrollment of 141,157 trainees. These institutions are strategically located in villages, ensuring that youth can conveniently access skills training while residing at home. However, recognizing the needs of trainees from far-flung areas, some VTCs, particularly those situated in the arid and semi-arid lands and urban centers, have established accommodation facilities. These facilities help bridge the gap for learners who would otherwise face challenges in accessing training due to distance. As a ministry, we also explore ways to enhance student accommodation in VTCs, particularly in areas where demand exceeds available facilities. Mr. Speaker, the government, in collaboration with development partners such as the African Development Bank and the Germany Development Bank, KfW, is actively investing in the infrastructural development of tertiary institutions. Additionally, funding is being sourced from the National Government Constituency Development Fund and contributions from local communities surrounding these institutions. To further address the shortage of student accommodation in tertiary institutions, the government is engaging private investors through a structured public-private partnership processes. Through this, the government encourages potential investors with interest in developing accommodation facilities within tertiary institutions to make such investments. We have taken measures such as encouraging institutions with land to enter into collaborative partnerships with private investors, through which the private investors develop accommodation facilities for use by students. Part 3 of that question, Mr. Speaker, it is indeed true that conditional grants offer both levels of government the opportunity to fund under-resourced services or infrastructure such as water supply and sewerage systems. Water and sanitation are a devolved function, yes, Mr. Speaker. Noting how important these services are to the effective functioning of TVET institutions, we are committed to work together with specific county governments to seek conditional grants that will support them. This will be especially key in areas around universities and TVETs with high student enrollment that has placed pressure on existing resources. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Any supplementary questions? Senator Muma.
Yes, I have, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, could the Minister indicate whether the Ministry of Education has any collaborative working relations with the Housing Department at the national level to secure part of the housing development units for tertiary institutions to provide accommodation for students, given that these are the most vulnerable individuals who need housing? Secondly, does the ministry have a record of the number of students taken up, those who are not taken up by the universities? How many are taken up by VCTs and TVET institutions? Do you have the percentage so that we are able to account to Kenyans how much we are absorbing or providing some kind of skills training to the high percentage of learners who do not make it to university?
Honorable CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can confirm that we have collaborative working agreement with the national government through the Ministry of Housing to provide accommodation to tertiary institutions using the housing levy through the affordable housing program. Indeed, this last month, there has been an advertisement of a number of housing accommodation units to our tertiary and VTCs. I don't have the exact number here, but we are working with them, and we've agreed on the part of housing that they'll assist in providing hostels from that fund to our institutions, including universities and also tertiary institutions, including TVETs. This is because it will help increase the number of the enrollment we get in those institutions, because accommodation is very, very crucial. In terms of the university, the number of students that we are putting through TVETs, I'll just use the example of last year, the last year's KCSE examinations. We had a percentage of 25% passing to be able to go to universities who got C+ and above. That means about 75% got below the C+. Now, the 25% was 246,000 students. The number that did examinations last year for KCSE was 965. So we have about 750 students who are supposed to go to VTCs and TVETs. When we opened the portal for TVETs, 8,000 of the students who qualified to go to universities actually elected to go to TVET. I do not have the actual breakdown of the numbers that have been enrolled to TVET this year, but I can have that done and will provide it in writing so that I don't give a figure that is incorrect. But we are doing something about it.
Senator Muma, you've had your opportunity. Allow other senators to ask any other supplementary questions. Senator Boni.
Mr. Speaker, there has been additional strain on the newly promoted national polytechnics, rather TTIs that have been promoted to national polytechnics, with special reference to Shemberere in Malaba Sub-County National Polytechnic and Sigalagala in Shinyalwe Kolomani Sub-Counties. The President, while visiting us, assured us that he was going to put up a number of hostels in those institutions. Mr. Speaker, could the CS confirm how much money he has now set aside for constructing these facilities as directed by the President in those two institutions, and when is the construction going to commence? And could you reassure our students that the other areas of need, like lack of where the children can play, you go to Shemberere, we have thousands of children, they just walk up and side the road, up and down, they have nowhere to play. Same to Shikalagala, they end up going to Hayeka Market and Gambia Mwanza to take alcohol in the afternoon instead of being involved in sports. How much investment are you putting in expanding sporting areas of those two institutions? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable CS, you've noted down those questions. You'll take more, then you can respond at a go. Senator Agnes Mudama.
Thank you, Chair. I first of all want to congratulate the CS, because even when he's called in committees, he appears. I've seen him appear in the Committee of Education, and so keep it up, Honorable CS, so that we don't speak like you have had senators speaking about the CS for Treasury. My question is, how long does the training for VCTs and TVETs take? How long? Is it 6 months? Is it 1 year? Is it 4 years or 3 years? Because we've seen some students being trained for 2 to 3 months and they're out, and we wonder if they can qualify with such a short time of training. And Honorable CS, there is an issue of transfers that I brought to your attention.
Senator Mudama,
if you can answer me about it
Senator
later.
Mudama,
Thank
you're
you.
entitled
Thank
to-
you, Mr. Speaker. I've finished. I'm done. Thank you.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The policy of upgrading polytechnics or TVET institutions to national polytechnics is that each county needs to have at least one TVET being upgraded to a national polytechnic. And once that is done, the financial implications of that particular upgrade is then assessed, and then it's included in the next financial year to ensure that the infrastructure in those institutions are developed to meet the status of national polytechnics. So I may not have the exact amounts for the allocated to the specific institutions that Senator Kalwale has referred to, that is Igalagala and Shimerere, but I undertake to check the actual figures allocated to them and then provide that answer so that I don't give the wrong information. With respect to expanding other infrastructure, including playfields, we are working with the Ministry of Sports to ensure that we have facilities provided for, because they have a sports fund that is available to develop and acquire extra land spaces to ensure that these institutions have enough space for expansion. Senator Mudama's question, what happens in TVET institutions is that the students, the trainees graduate using specific stages. So there are courses that take 3 months. There are skills that somebody gains by just being trained for 3 months. They are given certificates. There are diplomas that take 6 months. There are higher diplomas that take a year. There are others that take 2 years. So what we've done is that we've come up with a curricula that is specific to the needs of the students. For example, if a student wants to come and just learn masonry cannot take, for example, 6 months. So he's trained for 3 months, he gains that skill of masonry, is accredited and given a certification for that, and he can leave to go and use that skill to gain employment, then come back if he wants to learn something else, whether plastering, or he can move on like that. So it depends on what course it is. In fact, we've done what we are calling modularization of courses, where you can come in, study what you require, finish, go and gain employment somewhere else, and come back and continue learning. Because of that, we've had to pass, for example, the specific policies, including the recognition of prior learning policy, which requires that if you've been trained outside the informal program, you can come to an institution, you showcase your skill, and you are awarded a certificate in order for you to move to the next stage. So it is staged, and it's programmed depending on the course that one is taking. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we now move to question number 058. In the event that we save on time, we may come back to those honorable senators who still have supplementary questions on this particular question. The Senator for Nairobi City County, Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. These are the questions. Number one, what has the government done to permanently address the root causes of the prolonged industrial action by lecturers at the Technical University of Kenya, which led to the closure of the university between 3rd February and 18th March 2025? B, could the government consider apportioning budgetary allocation to bail out the Technical University of Kenya from the prevailing financial crisis, as it did for Moi University, to forestall a collapse of the institution? And lastly, could the Cabinet Secretary also outline the government's strategy to generally address the challenges currently afflicting public universities, which include inadequate infrastructure, perennial strikes by the academic staff, and financial instability? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond. These answers have been circulated to the honorable senators. Yes. You need not read them verbatim. You may even elect to paraphrase so that we save on time. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But on this one, Mr. Speaker, please allow me to read because it includes figures that are specific to TUC. Then where it's a general response, then I'll be able to generally paraphrase. Mr. Speaker, the award of charter to the Technical University of Kenya as a full-fledged university was done on the 15th of January 2013. Since that time, Mr. Speaker, TUC has operated with chronic funding shortfalls. The monthly revenue is approximately 207 million, including 63 million that is given to them through capitation. This falls very, very short of the monthly expenditure of 314 million, which includes a wage bill of 272 million, which has not been met, contributing, Mr. Speaker, to a debt of 12.9 billion, inclusive of CBA's arrears of the cycle of 2017 to 2021. Mr. Speaker, because of these cash flow challenges, the university then resorted to paying net salary to all staff and was unable to pay any remit any statutory deductions, that is pensions, pay, and housing levy, or any third-party deductions, that is union dues, bank loans, SACCOs, welfare, insurance premiums, etc. These challenges, Mr. Speaker, led to industrial action by staff of the university, as indicated in the question. Mr. Speaker, there is a table that we've annexed there, table 2, that shows the particularization of the debt, including what is due to contractors, what is pending to pension, which is 4.3 billion, third-party funds, statutory deductions, banks, SACCOs, insurance, CBA arrears, staff claim, all totaling to 2.9 billion. To overcome these challenges, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with TUC, came up with a recovery plan, which included the following measures. There was an agreement that the government will give a direct support of 145 million for the period of January 2025 through to 30th of June 2025 to ensure that staff salaries are paid in gross and on time. We also agreed to offer conditional grants and enhanced capitation. The Ministry of Education will continue to channel conditional grants to bridge the budget gap with phased allocations over the next financial years from 2025-26 to 2031-2032 to cover gross salaries and enable the timely remittance of the statutory deductions. We came up with a structured plan of sorting out that debt. TUC has also put in place a recovery strategy anchored on 3 areas. They are going to increase student enrollment. They are going to implement cost-cutting measures, including staff right-sizing, and also organizational restructure and revenue enhancement, as indicated. Table 3 there, Mr. Speaker, indicates the pending bills payment plan that runs from 2025 all the way to 2031. Regarding the retirement benefits and the remittance of statutory and third-party deductions, TUC has undertaken to do the following. The TUC Staff Retirement Benefit Scheme, originally established in 2009 and registered on the 12th of November 2013, was wound up by court on the 5th of July 2024. In the aftermath, TUC has engaged the Retirement Benefits Authority, the unions, that is WASU, KUSU, and KUDEA, and the receiver manager, liquidator, with a key meeting held on 30th of January 2025 and a follow-up schedule for 21st of May 2025 on the liquidation process. TUC has also undertaken to provide funds over the financial years 25-26 all the way to 2030 to settle outstanding liabilities of the wound-up TUC Staff Retirement Benefit Scheme in line with the overall recovery strategy. TUC has also requested the Retirement Benefits Authority to give the university authority to establish a new retirement benefit scheme since the old one was wound up. That would enable to ensure that the future financial deductions have a place to be utilized and for members who retire to get their benefits. Mr. Speaker, to the second part of that question, the government is committed to bailing out the Technical University of Kenya from the financial crisis, which, as I've indicated, started from day one. The government is committed to provide a net payroll support of 145 million, as I've indicated, for the period of January 2025 to 30th of June 2025. Thereafter, the support will be anchored in the budget of 2025-26 all the way to 2031-32. This will cover gross salaries and enable the timely remittance of statutory deductions. Part 3 of that question, Mr. Speaker, the university subsector, as we all know, has faced various challenges in recent times, largely occasioned by financial difficulties, leading them to be a number of them being declared technically insolvent. Indeed, as you'd recall, the university's Academic Staff Union and the Kenya University Staff Union, KUSU, issued strike notices in September and wanted to proceed to actual strike in October. The main issues that were raised were non-implementation of their 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreements and the delay in the conclusion of the 2021-2025 CBA. Key issues included the demand for basic salary increment by between 7% to 14%, the harmonization of allowances across universities, and the provision of car and mortgage scheme loans. Following negotiations, Mr. Speaker, the parties under the leadership of the Ministry of Education came up with a return-to-work formula, which was signed on the 26th of September 2024. The key terms and provisions of the return-to-work formula, Mr. Speaker, include the following: the salary adjustments, the last 2 years of the CBA, the 2021-25 CBA cycle, effective 1st of July 2023 to 30th of June 2025. It was agreed that for grades 13, 14, and 15, a 7% increment, salary increment. For grade 10, 11, and 12, a 10% salary increment. We also agreed on an annual automatic 4% increment. We agreed that the revised salaries would be effective October 2024. Retirement age was also sorted out. Transition provisions were provided to ensure that there is a smooth transition with the higher retirement ages until the expiry of the existing contracts. Harmonization of allowances was also undertaken beginning October 2024, which resolved the issues that were raised relating to different allowances being given by different universities. Budget enhancement, we gave commitments to address budgetary allocations for staffing promotions and related priorities. The Interpublic Universities Council, that is IPUCCF and WASU, were required to convene, and they did that convening, and they have undertaken the process of implementing the return-to-work formula. Mr. Speaker, in line with the return-to-work formula, the technical team composed of IPUCCF representatives and the 3 unions convened and worked out the figures that were required, and they came up with a figure of 9.7 billion. And then this figure was agreed to be spread out for the years 2024-25, 25-26, and 26-27 in order to ensure that they are taken care of, and therefore it led to a signing of a CBA on the 23rd of November 2024. The payments, Mr. Speaker, for 2021-25 commenced in December 2024 within the effective implementation date, with the effective implementation date being 1st of October, and we have adhered to it so far. To avert a recurrence of industrial disputes in the university subsector, Mr. Speaker, the government has committed to ensuring that negotiations for future CBAs commence at the start of each cycle to allow proper planning and budgeting. Since the implementation of CBAs is resource sensitive, We are also creating a legal and policy framework to ensure that our public universities are financially sustainable. Part of these include the introduction of the student-centered funding model, which replaced the DUC, under which universities were seriously underfunded. The ongoing law reform process is also geared towards ensuring that the governance frameworks in our public universities are effective, efficient, transparent, and accountable and account to prudent use of university resources. We have also instructed our public universities to address staff issues as and when they arise, instead of overlooking them until they assume crisis proportions. Overall, Mr. Speaker, the measures to improve governance and sustainable financing at our public universities will also support the enhancement of infrastructure in our public universities. We have also encouraged our universities to work on alternative resource mobilization initiatives in order to minimize reliance on exchequer. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senator for Nairobi County, do you have any supplementary questions?
Speaker, indeed, I do have one supplementary question, but before I ask that supplementary question, I just need some clarity on the answer that has been provided by the CS. Honorable CS, you have said that you are supplying a net payroll support of 145 million, knowing that the monthly wage bill for the institution is 272 million per month. Can you clarify to me whether this 145 that you say is for the period January 2025 to 30th June 2025 is a monthly support of 145, or the 145 is for those 3 months, which would be a drop in the ocean when you compare with the monthly wage bill? Secondly, there's a mention of conditional grants that you say will bridge the budget gap. Unfortunately, you have not provided any figures, CS. Do you have a figure of the total amount of the conditional grant that is going to be supported, the institution is going to be supported with? And lastly, and last clarification, Honorable Speaker, there is language that is suspicious in the response on the recovery measures. I don't understand what you mean by staff right sizing. This is the first time in my entire life that I have heard that word, staff right sizing. Are you saying you're going to sack people? And if it is that is what you are saying, can it come from you clearly? Which cadre of staff are affected and the numbers? And then, Speaker, I can ask my supplementary question then. Because those were just clarifications. This language is, that language is confusing. What is right sizing? Are you cutting people down to size?
Proceed.
Now, Honorable Speaker, the supplementary question that I wanted to ask is whether this idea of transforming these middle-level colleges like Kenya Polytechnic into universities without sound financial and research grounding was ill thought, and given the inability of these institutions to self-fund from internal resources. He has brought that question very clearly, Honorable Speaker, that these institutions are unable to self-sustain because of the sources of funding. Would you still, as a government, support this policy of transforming these mid-level colleges like Kenya Poly into universities? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For clarification, first clarification, Honorable Sifuna, the 145 million is monthly support. Monthly support to cover a gross payment of salary from January 2025 to June 2025. The conditional grant figures, we have them inbuilt in the 12.9 billion figure that we are supposed to pay, which we spread out from 2025-26 year to 2030-31. There is a schedule of how much per year we are giving so that that figure can be met. The idea was, take the 12.9 billion, spread it out because the government cannot afford to pay all of it at once. Spread it out because, for example, if you take the 4.3 billion, that is the amount for pension, we know it is not required all at once. So we spread that figure out so that at least when people retire, they do not go home without any money. So we put in some money current so that when you retire, you are getting money, and we keep increasing that figure so that by the end of 2031, we'll have cleared the debt and will be in a position of sustainability. On right sizing, Mr. Speaker, this is rationalization of the staff. I will explain further, Honorable Senator. What we found is that in universities, the ratio of teaching staff to non-teaching staff is supposed to be 70 to 30. But what we have in most of our institutions is the opposite. We have academic staff that are 30 to 70. So right sizing or rationalization is as you continue employing, you see where do you need to employ and where do you need to release. For example, if a casual or somebody is on contract and you find is in the 70% portion, you do not replace that person. You let them go at the end of their contract so that you have an opportunity to bring this other side above in order to right size. There is going, of course, to be issues relating to sending people home, but that is dependent on a program that would work if that becomes necessary, just like what we've done in Moi. What we did in Moi, we agreed that the first thing that will happen is the people whose contracts are coming to an end and are not required to be renewed because they're in the category of where you have more than you need, you don't renew their contract. But then when you move to want to deal with the rest of the group, let's say you want to send them home, you have to work using the normal, because it's a labor right, using the normal process. Discuss with them, discuss with the unions, and you must have funds if you are sending people home to pay them so that they go home. So these are the strategies or structures that we put in place. One, to ensure that we have sustainable programs in the universities, but we also do not offend the rights of the employees. So we are not just going to sack people and tell them, go home. We are going to work with them and with the unions to ensure that we have a program, a transition program, where we are going to be able to ensure that we are reaching the right level. That is the right sizing, rationalization that we are talking about. But we are going to work together with them. We are not going to wake up and say, this group go home. There could even those who are willing to voluntarily come and say, I want to go home, can I have my redundancy package and stuff like that. Now, the issue of transforming these mid-level colleges into universities, of course, came about because there was a number of students, as you very well know. The university spaces, if you remember, was that if people do exams and they're supposed to go to universities, what used to happen is you start from the position of how many spaces do we have in the universities for us to admit. Then you do a cutoff point and say, this year we are taking students from B and above. So you find that even the people who are actually qualified to go to universities were not getting the spaces. That is the basis upon which the transformation of these middle colleges to universities came about. But where we are now, the conversation needs to be had to confirm whether we have enough. For instance, this year, the spaces we have in universities to accommodate students, the available spaces are 305,000. The people who qualified on the C+ to go to universities are 246,000. That means we have almost 60,000 available space to admit other students. So the question would be, do we really need to do or create more universities? Because we are not getting enough students to admit. So it's a conversation that we'll have, and at each and every discussion, this is the rationalization, the discussion, the assessment that needs to be done, including the financial implications of it, to see whether it is possible to upgrade. But otherwise, currently we have almost 79 universities in the country, for 3 of them being public, the rest being private. So we have enough spaces to admit all our students. So it's a conversation, as I said, that would need to be had depending on the need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Senator Professor Kamal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And thank you, Minister, for the answers. I'm just wondering about the universities in relation to the TVETs, and you answered the question earlier about the TVETs. How much space do we have in the TVET and mid-level colleges to absorb our students? I'm asking that because you have rightfully said the percentage to the university is about 20% of those who did KCSE. You have also said that those figures at least well accommodated as far as admission is concerned, because we have even extra room. How many do we have in the middle level? This percentage that qualifies to go to college, what capacity do we have for them? That's for the mid-level, before we even talk of VCTs. I know since you are a minister of both basic and higher education, we also have students who were offloaded in class 8, who couldn't go to secondary school because the spaces in secondary school were less than the spaces, the output that came out of primary schools. What plans does the ministry have to make sure that we don't offload our children actually to the streets? Because they are either somewhere or they are nowhere, and we will find them out there in the streets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, just note down the question. Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, CS, for coming to answer these questions. Honorable Speaker, my supplementary question is on question number 58C, that the Senator of Nairobi had sought to understand the government strategy on generally addressing the issues and the challenges currently affecting public universities, particularly by perennial strikes by academic staff. My question to the CS is, Bona CS, is there a specific remedy or a variety of remedies that you have put in place to deal with the disadvantage that students get with these strikes, and particularly where sometimes they're not concerned? A particular case in example is the rampant cases of late or delayed schooling. For instance, when there is a delayed element of or changes in calendars, where you find that a student is supposed to even graduate in a year's time, there is delayed calendars to the extent that they end up graduating in 2 years or 3 years. This is becoming a very serious issue in public universities, Honorable Speaker, that I think that it's an issue that needs to be dealt with for once and for all. So is there specific remedies that the ministry is putting in place to make sure that those disadvantaged students are also catered for in the middle of these perennial strikes? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mariam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, my question is on paragraph 31, which is the minister saying that he will pay a net payroll of supports payroll 145, but the gross one is 272. So there is what you call avoidable expenditure, which if you have not remitted the statutory deduction on time, there is interest per month. So how will the minister take care of the interest? Thank you.
Senator Onyonka.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to raise a supplementary question to the CS. CS, first of all, I want to welcome you as my CS because we come from the same county, but professionally I'm happy. I'm declaring my interest, Mr. Speaker. The question I wanted to ask CS is that given the fact that you realize we are having a challenge on the housing problem within these institutions, has the ministry done an audit to find out, for example, how many hostels do all our TVETs need? And most probably, I'm sure CS, you know, even all our universities have no housing facilities or hostels. What is the most probable resolution or solution would you offer this country in terms of either systematically spread out over a period of time so that we can then solve the issue of the deficit of all our universities and technical vocational training institutes where our children, young children, have no places to stay. And I'm sure, like you heard Honorable Bonia Halwala state, that even when these young men and women are going for this training, these untoward issues of alcohol abuse and social dysfunction, if we had hostels which are managed properly and were observing the law, we would actually make our children are responsible and they worked hard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Gataya. Senator Mofire.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question is written to the predecessor to the current minister came here, and I had the same question. There is this school called Kamutwado Primary School, which was allocated 10 million. 2 million was advanced. That was 2019-2020 financial year. And up to now, that school has not gotten the balance of 80 million. That is 2019-2020 financial year. The predecessor, Honorable Machogu, the CS Machogu, had promised to give them balance. I don't know whether in your archives you have that information, Honorable Waziri. There is also the Tharaka Technical College, which the community and the board would want it elevated to the National Polytechnic, because that is the only technical that serves quite a very huge population, the entire lower part of Eastern Province and some part of Kambani and some part of Maua. So the community and the board would request that technical be upgraded to the National Polytechnic to serve the intended purpose. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Bone.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. CS, let's admit it. From your table here, the school needs 12.9 billion shillings in pending bills. And CS, you want to give them 145 million per month for 6 months. That is a total of 870 million shillings. In view of the paltry 207 million that they are able to generate on their own, let's admit it, the college is insolvent. Can you make an undertaking, Minister, because you can't do it now, that a few weeks or months from now, you will present to the public a comprehensive strategy of how you want to rid this problem of insolvency at the Technical University College. Having said that, allow me to make a passing remark, briefly, Speaker, that the government must do something so that you talk to parents that it is not a must that every child gets a university degree. The courses that were being offered by the Kenya Polytechnic that was converted were equally competitive in the job market. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may now proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To Professor Kamar's question, how much space we have in the mid-level colleges. Mr. Speaker, we are spaces available to almost 1 million in TVETs. This is because of the structure of the programs that are offered. As I indicated, we have modularized those programs, and so students can come in and out. And remember, when TVETs were formed, they were supposed to absorb the students who are not going to universities. Now, in 2025, we had a total of 375,000 students in TVETs, when the student admission to universities was at 22%, and universities had almost 800,000 students. So the pyramid was inverted. We had more students in universities than in TVETs, when we should be having more students in TVETs than universities. So we started a program of increasing the enrollment of these students, and we targeted even above 1 million. When we started in January this year, we've raised the enrollment from 375,000 to almost 700,000 as we speak. And they are all in college, and we do admissions in January, we do admissions in May, we do admissions ongoing every quarter. So there is enough space to admit the students in our institutions, both TVET and VTCs, those ones who do not go to universities. And to Senator Boni Kalole's recommendation, it is true that some of the courses, because even now universities have a TVET institution within them, so that we have students who go to a university but they go to the TVET in the university, meaning that these are now courses that we can agree that we need to absorb our students into those universities. And that goes to answer the question of, we have a number of our students or young people between the age of 18 and 35 who are neither in formal school or in formal employment. So they are the ones that are out here, which the TVETs is supposed to absorb and remove them from the streets so that we can skill them to be able to play a role in the economy, so that we have plumbers, we have electricians, we have engineers, they can progress, and there are many other IT programs that we are offering in that space. So it is important that all of us start working. In fact, the issue of enrollment to TVETs is being spearheaded in conjunction with Ngao, because we are using an all-of-government approach, and we're ensuring that these people, when they go to Barasas, they tell the parents what is important, or how useful the courses that would be in those institutions are covered. Apart from that, we have a lot of equipment in those institutions of TVET. So learning on hands-on learning is that much more effective. And recently we passed a policy called dual training policy, where our students would be taught in institutions for 50% of the time, and the other 50% they go to industry. And we are signing collaboration agreements with industry in various places of the people doing textile, people doing any other industry, so that we can have our children, when they are learning, to learn hands-on. So there's something that we are doing in this space to ensure that we reduce the number of our students who are not skilled. Senator Eddie's question, is there a specific remedy to deal with? Yes, what happened is, for example, in Moe, if you recall, there were students who are doing medicine, and they had been in that institution for 9 years, for courses that were taking 6 years. So they had lost 3 years in that university. So when the strike came and we came up with a package to resolve the issues of Moe, we also came up with a package to resolve that problem of those medical students, which related to training in the referral hospitals. And we came up with a program where they expanded the program from Moe Referral Hospital to Iten, so that you can be able to do many more students. And because of that, we were able to graduate those students in March this year. The first students graduated in November last year, 28th of November last year, but the medical students and other batch that had remained behind graduated in March this year. So when we come up with a program to ensure that the strike is resolved, we also work towards coming up with a program on how the students who have suffered are going to meet their lecture time so that they can graduate. And what we have come up with is to just agree as Kenyans that we need to resolve the problems early. One of the problems we discovered is that most academic strikes arise out of their CBAs. Now, we found that CBAs are negotiated at the end of their lifespan. Now, when you negotiate a CBA at the end of its lifespan, it means you've not budgeted for it, there's no predictability, you are not aware of what was required, and we've insisted that going forward, the CBAs should be negotiated at the beginning of their lifespan, so that we know this is the amount of money we'll need to afford. That way, we can budget for it or plan for it. And I'm glad to note that the CBA for 2025, 2029, they are already negotiating it as we speak, so that we can factor it into our next budgets to ensure that the teachers know, or the lecturers know what they require. So that is how we are trying to resolve this space, and it is a multi-pronged approach. We have to deal with it because the students who are in these universities are our students. If we don't do something about them, then they suffer. As we indicated, almost 23 of our universities were technically insolvent. If we carried through the insolvency and said these ones are dead, let them go, we'd be having a number of our students not having spaces to go. So we had to make a decision, a hard decision on what do we do so that we keep these universities floating, as well as ensure that our students have, they can be able to get their education and graduate. On the question of the interest on the 145 million, what we are doing is negotiate with the institutions. For example, payee is remitted to KRA. So when you don't remit, there is penalty and there is interest. So what we are doing is negotiate with them that let's pay the principal, and the interest and penalties is removed, and we have a payment plan that runs several years to be able to bring it up to standard. That's what we are doing with the issue of interest and penalties. The challenges in housing, the ministry has not undertaken an audit of all the universities on the housing that they require, but each university has undertaken their own assessment of the percentage of the universities of the student hostels that they require. And I'm glad to report that because universities are independent institutions under their charter, some of them have done very well. For example, Maseno has done an assessment of how many student hostels they have, and they keep building these hostels every year, including having the capacity to go into the market and getting loan facilities to build the facilities as they continue clearing the loan, and they are doing that. In the cooperative university where we were the other day, and I'm happy to note that recently we were able to enthrone the youngest chancellor in the country, a 36-year-old young man who is working for an international bank. And so these are some of the changes that we are doing to ensure that we get support from various partners. And in that institution, they already signed an agreement, a partnership, an MOU, to have an investor build 7,000 units of their 10,000 students that they have. So each individual university is working towards ensuring that they resolve the housing problem. But also we are working with the Ministry of Housing under the housing levy to ensure that they can assist us in building the hostels, and we've signed quite a number of agreements with them, and some of the construction of the units have begun. Senator Mofa's issue is specific to some school. I will check. Excuse me. I didn't get the name of the school. The name? Kaputuando.
Araka constituency. That is Kalangachiri location.
Let me undertake to counter-check that information. I have my Director General here, he's taken the notes, and will specifically respond to you. But as you know, in the last 2 years, there has not been any infrastructural funds in the budget. So we were not able to do any support to any institutions on the infrastructure portion. But this year, we put in a portion of infrastructure, and I'm hoping that will cover a good number of the requests and the requisitions that are in place. That, of course, would go to any other that is pending, and we are working on that, including presidential directives that are normally given. On the technical college, Mr. Speaker, there is a specific criteria that is used for us to be able to confirm that a particular TVET institution is ripe for upgrading to national. So once the requisition is made, there is a team that visits the institution and comes up with the report, and based on that report, a CAB memo is then prepared, then we proceed and ensure that it's upgraded. Once you meet the criteria, that includes land space, it includes the number of students that you have and other, then we'll be able to resolve that. So our team can pay a visit once the request is made, and once we confirm, we'll be able to sort that out and see whether it meets the requirements. On the 145 million to Senator Kalwale's question, the 145 million was support just to the salary, because TUC has only been paying net salary. So we decided let's give them a grant of 145 million for 6 months, January to June, so that those 6 months the staff can be paid their gross salary. The 12.9 billion debt we have put a strategic plan in it, and it is stipulated on table number 3 on how we are going to clear it. What we did is we spread that out over the years so that for each portion, for each area, for example, contractors and general creditors, the pending bills are 360 million. So for the year 2025-26, they would be paid 17 million. Then the next payment to them would have been the year 2028-29. So we spread it out. We spread the whole of 12.9 billion over a longer period so that the government can be giving money in each budget year, financial year, so that by 2031, it is cleared as we sort out these other issues that are there. So we have a plan to ensure that we do not allow any of our universities to go down. We have done this for TUK. We've also done it for MOI. It's the same thing. MOI goes all the way to 2028. And that is how we are resolving this particular problem. But over and above that, we are also resolving governance issues, which we discovered is one of the biggest threats to our universities, and also issues relating to them, the universities, not doing enough in research and their niche so that they can be able to generate more in their A so that we are able to support our budget in those institutions. Thank you. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
We'll now proceed to question number 060 by the Honorable Senator George Mbugua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to ask question number 60. Part A. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide data on the enrollment of children with hearing impairment in pre-primary and in grades 1, 2, and 3 of lower primary across special schools, integrated special units, and regular mainstream schools from 2022 to date? And B, could the Cabinet Secretary provide an overview of the government's policy on integration of learners with hearing impairment in pre-primary and lower primary education, including details on the measures in place to ensure that the learners receive adequate support and consideration in the mainstream education setting? And C, what is the Ministry's position on the placement of these learners in pre-primary and lower primary boarding schools? And could the Cabinet Secretary outline any specific guidelines or recommendations from the Ministry addressing the matter? And lastly, what provisions and resources does the government provide to support the education of these learners in pre-primary and lower primary without necessitating their placement in boarding schools? And could the Cabinet Secretary also state the actions being taken to assure parents that boarding schools are not the only viable option for these learners? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may now proceed to respond.
Mr. Speaker, to part A of that question, the enrollment of learners with hearing impairment in grades 1, 2, and 3 of lower primary across special schools, integrated special units, and regular mainstream schools from 2022 to date is as follows. 2022-2023, we had 13,099 students. 2023-2024, we had 19,199, and 24-25, we had 11,399. This is the data, Mr. Speaker, that is available on the National Education Management Information System. On data on learners in pre-primary institutions, we are now working with the Council of Governors to collect data on learners in pre-primary institutions which are under the county governments. This data will then be populated on the National Education Management Information System. The main policy, Mr. Speaker, that's question number 2, on special needs education in Kenya is in the sector policy for learners and trainees with disability 2018. This policy document provides a key provision of the Constitution under Article 53(1)(b) of the Constitution that provides that every child has a right to free and compulsory basic education. Article 54(1)(b) of the Constitution says that a person with any disability is entitled to access educational institutions and facilities for persons with disabilities that are integrated into society to the extent compatible with the interests of that person. The essence of the policy, Mr. Speaker, is that learners with disabilities, including those with hearing impairment are only integrated in regular schools if there is adequate support and an accessible environment that will enable their learning. The ministry provides top-up capitation to learners in special needs education institutions. At the primary school level, Mr. Speaker, the approval rate of capitation is 1,420 per learner per year. Learners with special needs, however, receive a top-up of 2,300 per learner per year. Those in boarding schools are allocated 11,000 per learner per year to subsidize for boarding costs. At the secondary school level, Mr. Speaker, the approval rate of capitation is 22,244 per learner, with a top-up of 35,730 per learner for schools with special needs. The top-up grants, Mr. Speaker, are meant to support the provision of specialized learning materials, assistive devices and technologies, and including personnel emoluments for non-teaching staff and food subsidy for the learners mainly in the special needs education boarding schools. The ministry also implements both age-based and stage-based curriculum to support learners with special needs. Age-based curriculum applies to learners who proceed to the next level depending on their age. Those with severe disabilities proceed to the stage-based curriculum. They only proceed to the next stage after they master certain skills and capacities. These stages are foundational, intermediate, and pre-vocational and vocational stages, Mr. Speaker. Question number 3. Mr. Speaker, the sector policy of learners and trainees with disabilities 2018 provides for disability inclusive education, meaning that a learner can be placed in any school of choice as long as the school has a requisite support system that will enable the learner to access education. Placement options available for learners include special schools, integrated schools, and regular schools with special units. For lower primary boarding schools, assessment of learners is done by education assessment and resource centers to determine the type of disability, after which placement is done accordingly. The assessment report, Mr. Speaker, informs the kind of intervention and support required by the learner. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, after assessment and placement of learners, the government provides the following to learners in primary schools. At the primary school level, the approval rate of capitation, as I indicated, is 1,420 with a top-up of 2,300. Boarding schools is 11,000. And after assessment and determination of the type of need, the SNE learner, the ministry, through Kenya Institute of Special Education, provides assistive devices like hearing aids, among others. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mbugo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On my supplementary question, CS, I would want you to tell this House what measures have been put in place to ensure inclusive infrastructure in this school. And 2, I would want you to explain to us why there is a substantial decline in enrollment from 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025. Thank you.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The ministry is working to ensure that under the competency-based education, enough infrastructure is provided for in the schools so that we can have the students with special needs integrated. Up to this time, Mr. Speaker, the students would go to the schools that had the facilities to support them, depending on the severity of the disability. Where the disability was in such a manner that they could not be supported in particular institutions, then they went to the special schools that are provided. So on the decline, Mr. Speaker, I have not done an audit to find out why there has been a decline in enrollment, and maybe I would, in 2022-2023, there was 13,099. 23-24, it was 19,000. Then it came down 24-25 to 11,000. We'll need to check that and revert back to the honorable member, Mr. Speaker. Thank
Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to ask a question. Honorable CS, in your answer to C, you have indicated that a learner with disability may be placed in any school so long as the school has facilities to support them. In my view, that is the wrong notion. Actually, under the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which now forms part of the laws of Kenya, every school is supposed to be facilitated by government to integrate learners with disability, which means that a student within a particular region or locality should not be going far away to look for a school because the schools next to them do not have facilities that integrate disability. So my question is, what are we doing to ensure that we implement our obligations to persons with disabilities, to learners with disability, without making it optional? What you are suggesting is that we will make it optional. The school that has the facility is the one that the student will go to. What we need is that every school should actually have infrastructure that is integrated for disability to ensure learners with disability in that locality to access that education.
Honorable CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To that question, I'm in agreement that we need to have our facilities sufficiently having the infrastructure to integrate all our students. And I can say that in view of the new act, the Disabilities Act that is likely to come into, is actually being assented to tomorrow. These are some of the issues that it has been tackled in that act, and therefore now it's going to become mandatory or obligatory that each institution, depending on the budgetary allocation that would get, would have those facilities integrated, and as indicated, depending on the severity of the disability, then we'll ensure that all our students in that section, the special needs sector, are taken care of just like we are taking care of each and every other child in Kenya. Thank you.
We now move to question number 061. Honorable Senator Joyce Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I stand to ask a question on behalf of Senator Joyce Correa, MP. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide data on the number of unemployed teachers who are yet to be observed by the Teacher Service Commission across all counties, categorized by their year of graduation, and indicate the current employment gap in each county? Sorry, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think that was the answer. The question was, could the Cabinet Secretary provide data on the number of unemployed teachers who are yet to be observed by the Teacher Service Commission across all counties, categorized by their year of graduation, and indicate the current employment gap in each county? B, what measures has the ministry put in place to address TSC's low absorption rate of teachers, particularly those who have remained jobless since 2010? C, could the Cabinet Secretary outline any collaborative efforts between the Ministry of Education and TSC to ensure teachers' employment across all regions, particularly addressing disparities where some counties have higher numbers of unemployed teachers, and to promote fairness and equity in recruitment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To part A of that question, Mr. Speaker, under Article 237, Sub-Article 2A of the Constitution of Kenya, grants the Teacher Service Commission the mandate to register teachers who meet the qualifications for registration under the TSC Act. To execute the mandate, the TSC has established an online teacher registration portal to facilitate efficient, effective teacher registration. However, since the process of registration is voluntary, some of our graduates from the teacher training colleges and universities are yet to register. Mr. Speaker, an analysis of the teacher register indicates that there is a total of 485,000 registered teachers who are not employed by the Teacher Service Commission, as summarized in. The Commission has not obtained data of how many ECD teachers have been employed by the county governments and is in the process of ascertaining the data per county. The Commission has also indicated that it has not yet complied data of unemployed registered teachers per county. This information can be supplied once the data is compiled. Part 2 of that question, Mr. Speaker, recruitment of teachers across the country is premised, among other factors, the availability of funds and the existence of vacancies in authorized establishments. In a bid to address the low employment of qualified teachers in the public sector, the Commission has done the following. The Ministry and the Commission annually submit budgetary proposals and policy recommendations to the National Assembly's Departmental Committee on Education, advocating for adequate funding and legislative support to facilitate recruitment of teachers. The Commission identifies the shortage of teachers in each school and replaces the teachers who have exited service and ensure that these are replaced immediately to improve curriculum implementation. The Commission also engages unemployed teachers on an internship program targeting unemployed qualified teachers. This program is governed by the Teachers Internship Policy and Guidelines 2019 and is in line with the government policy to equip graduates with practical skills and competencies for the job. Under the internship program, it is aimed, among others, to promote development and job competencies with clear linkages between education, training, and practical work. Since the inception of the program in 2019, Mr. Speaker, the Commission has engaged 94,300 teachers interns, as shown in the table provided there. 2020, 10,300, 21, 12,000, 22, 6,000, 23, 26,000, last year, 20,000, this year also 20,000, 94,300 in total. During teacher recruitment exercise, the Commission gives priority to teachers who graduated earlier, especially those who have remained unemployed for extended periods of time. This is done to promote fairness and to reduce long-term unemployment among teachers who have waited many years for absorption into service. Mr. Speaker, the Teacher Service Commission continually monitors staffing levels across all public learning institutions. In response to the evolving curricular demands, school enrollments, and regional disparities, from time to time, the Commission, pursuant to Article 237, formally advises the Ministry of Education on the prevailing shortage of teachers in specific subjects and learning areas with a view to increasing the national supply of teachers and ensuring adequate, equitable staffing. In addition, Mr. Speaker, recruitment of teachers is based on the number of classes in the country, which are set by the Ministry of Education. Particular attention for the last 2 years has been given to junior school deployment under the new CBE framework, spearheaded by the Ministry of Education. It's based on this that the Commission recruits to ensure balanced staffing across the country. I submit.
Senator Montent, do you have any supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I would want to ask the CS whether he is making any efforts to sensitize and address these graduates to register, since we continue to witness a lot of complaints after every recruitment, as I can cite the just finalized recruitment a few months ago.
I don't know, CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The graduates are encouraged to register, and as we have indicated, there are already over 343,000 registered qualified teachers in the register who are not yet employed. And so the employment, as I've indicated by TSC, under the TSC policy is to ensure that those who are employed are those who graduated earlier. So that is the rationalization that we deal with the TSC to ensure that they comply with that, so that we don't have teachers who graduated like 2010 or before who are not yet in employment. Thank you.
Senator Fatuma Duro, do you have a supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, I had a problem with my gadget when the question on vocation was asked. Can you allow me to ask a question?
Yes, proceed.
Okay, thank you. First, Karibu Waziri. Sorry also for bashing your colleagues in front of you. I have two technical colleges in Isiolo County, one in Merti and another one in Garbatula. The one in Garbatula is not operational up to now, almost 10 years down the line. And the one in Merti is actually operational, but it lacks equipment. So my question is, what are you planning to do about it? And number three, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to ask if you also supervise vocational training colleges, because I see like counties don't have capacity. And I have one in Isiolo town where actually the standard is very low. So do you actually do capacity building on the same? I thank you.
Let us get to move for Senator Kabango Paul Kalungo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to ask my question. And my question is based on, Mr. Speaker, if you wish to move mountains tomorrow, you must start by lifting stones today. My question is, can the CS provide a projection of teachers' demand over the next 5 years, Mr. Speaker? Because, Mr. Speaker, that projection is needed for Parliament also to plan, also for the Ministry to plan, in regards to the population of the students, the infrastructure, and all that pertains to giving quality education to the students. So can he give the projection for the next 5 years? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Senator Margaret Jebkoech Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. CS, you have mentioned that the TSC prioritizes the old graduates. I'm just wondering whether there is a way of mopping the old, all of them. Because although you are saying they prioritize, it's the fact that they are given 10 points, 5 points, or 2 points, depending on the year of graduation. It's the highest. But there are so many other points that are given there are so many other parameters that are used, such that even if you are a graduate of 2010 and somebody gets more parameters on 2015, the one of 2015 simply passes and you are left. And this is the cry on the ground. The cry on the ground is that it is not a first come, first serve employment system. So is there a way in which you can actually say anybody who has been there for 10 years is mobbed? Because they're all graduates, they have all graduated, whether they are P1s or graduate teachers. If you can mop the past, because right now there is a complete mix, and we do appreciate that there is a complex way of hiring teachers, but until we mop those who have done, they will continue to cry. And this question is coming out of really a cry from the ground, that there are people who graduated in 2010 and they are still out there, and out of the formulas that we have used, we have managed to get people of 2015, people of 2020 coming in, and there has to be a way of mopping all this so that we don't have a graduate who has been on the ground for more than 10 years. One cried to me and said, I am now 34 years old. Very soon, I will not be employable. And yet I have been on the ground since I graduated. And that one graduated when he was 23. So this is now 11 years, and they're out there. Is there a way in which you can mop all this? Thank you.
CS, answer those 3 questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the question of the technical college in Isiolo and Garbatula, as I indicated, we have many students who need to join these colleges, so it is the ministry's priority to ensure that these colleges that are already done are completed and students admitted to them, because we need them because we have more students in that subsector. To that extent, we've actually made a requisition for resources to complete the institutions that are incomplete so that they can admit students, and to ensure that all the ones that are coming up, the 52 others that are remaining, are also done and completed to ensure that we can absorb these students. Our estimation is that if we have all these institutions operating, the TVET sector can absorb up to 2 million students, and that is our target in the next 2-3 years. That's what we are working toward. So we take that into account. We'll ensure that those colleges that are completed, including the one in Isiolo, are done, completed, and operationalized, including getting equipment. For example, in terms of equipment, if you go to government ministries, any government ministry, you'll find a lot of vehicles, obsolete equipment that is thrown all over, that is normally sold for nothing. We've done a paper to allow us, as the TVET sector, to be allowed to take all those vehicles and spread them, and other equipment in hospitals that are obsolete, to spread them across our institutions so that they can be used for learning. That way we'll be able to have equipment at an affordable cost in a number of our institutions. So we are trying to come up with programs to ensure that even as we are hiring or we are getting other equipment, what we have is also utilized. To the question of whether we supervise VTCs, yes, we do. In terms of policy and standardization of programs, that is done under the TVET department, and so they are supposed to be aligned. And that, I think I answered that question when I answered the very first question relating to what the TVETA and TVET CDAC does. The programs and policies are done by us. So if it's not being done, we'll ask our regional director for TVET to be able to ensure that he's hands-on in that area to ensure that we keep to the standards. To Senator Karungo's question, we have not done a projection for 5 years, and that's a very welcome recommendation, and I've asked the TSC team that is here to undertake that exercise. It is better for planning. It helps us to predict. It helps us also to find out which subject areas do we need more teachers, so that we can plan our lives and our programs better. So it's a welcome suggestion, and we have taken it into account. Thank you, Senator Karungo. To Senator Kamar's question, it is true that they are supposed to take into account, prioritize those who graduated earlier. But up to date, that has not really worked, because wherever you go, you'd find somebody who tells you, I graduated 25 years ago and I have not been employed. What we are grappling with currently is to see whether we can come up with a policy where we are going to have an affirmative action, where we are, as you correctly suggest, we mop up the older ones who graduated and give them jobs, even without taking them through those particular many criteria, so that we are able to spread them, to spread whatever spaces that is available once or twice in the next 1 or 2 years, so that we can mop all of them out, so that we do not have this cry. So we are looking into working towards ensuring to come up with even an affirmative action to just support them, because we are having people retiring before they get employed, so which is very frustrating. So thank you for the suggestion, Madam Kamar. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
So, Honorable CS, is it that you are giving commitment that the next 1 year or 2 you'll be able to mop up that list of the undergraduates? It's a very sensitive matter that maybe the former CS education would like to know whether it is in your plan that you are committing to do that.
Yes, it is, Mr. Speaker, and if you note from the question was clear that we needed to have provided the number of teachers who are not employed from each county and their year of graduation. We didn't get that, and we have asked that TSC undertakes that exercise and gives us that information, because we were only given a general provision. Once we have that number, once we know this is the number that graduated 10 years ago, this is the number that graduated 15 years ago, it would be easy to make a decision on how to deal with that issue. That affirmative action, I'm committing to it, because there's no point to roll out graduates and not have a plan on how to support them. Thank you.
Very well. Can we go to the next question? Senator Cheluyot, Majority Leader, do you have a supplementary question? Then we go to the, but I can't see Senator Muma. Yeah? Can we ask those questions in the next 064? Okay, Senator Alu.
Thank you, Speaker, for accommodating me, because I realize question 64 may not really be that related to what I wanted to ask, because the Minister was still speaking on this issue of TSC. I felt this would be the appropriate time. So I want to appreciate this opportunity. I welcome you, Minister, for the chance to interact with the representatives of the people. I have a specific question with regards to TSC. It's something that probably you could answer now or grant an opportunity to send in the feedback later, given that it's a bit, it will require some data. I know, Mr. Speaker, that TSC has an absorption program spanning different years in different regions. And you know, part of the hallmarks of the broad-based government, Mr. Speaker, is to equalize the country and make every Kenyan feel part and parcel. I know that there are parts of this country, by advantage of proximity to power or one way or the other, they have teachers that have been absorbed, graduates up to as late as I think 2017 or 2018, while the other parts of the country where you find graduates even as late as 2010, 11, and things like that. Can the minister provide this data from TSC with a breakdown of all the 47 counties, Mr. Speaker, on what is the year of graduation that TSC now is implementing across those counties, and the reason for the disparity, where you find in certain regions very recent graduates are being granted the opportunity, while in other parts of the country, Mr. Speaker, there are graduates who are almost nearing retirement age while yet to get an opportunity to serve. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister. What is the plan? Is there a plan the Ministry has to integrate Madrasa system to the current system we have? And is there institutions that can train the Madrasa system? And if, how many teachers has been trained for Madrasa system? Thank you.
Senator Betty Montet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Mine is Mr. Cabinet Secretary, you've told us, Honorable Cabinet Secretary, you've told us that you've enrolled about 700 students to TVET and TVET centers across the country. I would wish if you could give us or even provide that data of the numbers, county by county. We are doing an inquiry currently and we are finding it so difficult to get to know the numbers from each county. So if you could provide that data, we'll appreciate. Thank you. I submit.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. CS, my question follows the conversation you had this morning. You had a conversation about CS Treasury and a complaint a complaint about the distribution of resources in his, to counties. Would you kindly submit to this, to the Senate, a list of the distribution of the recent employment by county? Honorable Speaker, and I think this is something we need to ask everyone, so we stop pointing fingers tribally in one county or the other. We need to start holding ministries accountable on how they are equitably distributing opportunities in this country. So if we can have a list of the employment of teachers in the last 2 years and how they have been distributed by county. Thank you very much.
Honorable Senators, I hope you are not expecting those statistics right away, but maybe the CS can give commitments on when to provide them. Honorable CS.
Mr. Speaker, I might not be able to provide the statistics, but let me say that the question by the Honorable Leader of Majority, Senator Cheriot, is actually the same question that was in the paper, where we were required to submit the teachers who are registered, who are not employed, when they graduated, which county they come from. And that information wasn't provided, but we've asked TSC to prepare that response, then we'll submit it to the House. Because, as I said, it will be able to inform us on what we need to do to correct the disparities and to ensure that there is fairness and equity in this employment process. So we'll be able to provide that answer. We've requested them to undertake that exercise. On the question of Madrasa, Section 95 of the Basic Education Act provides for integration of Madrasa into the main school system. And let me confirm that NACONEC is finalizing a study on how to undertake this exercise, and once it is completed, we will be able to submit. The data relating to issues of employment per county, per area, and that information we do not have, but we are getting it, and we are working towards in future to ensure that this is information that is available, because we are working towards getting a new education management information system called KEMIS, which will be having all this information at the touch of a button, so that we know where we are at any one time. That will also deal with the issue of distribution of resources relating to how many teachers we've employed in the last 2 years. Let me submit and state that that information will be provided, and we'll send it through the Education Committee for the purposes of information to the Senate. Thank you. I submit.
Yes, can you give maybe the time frame that we might be able to get that information?
How long will it take? To get this information, 2 weeks. Are you sure? Mr. Speaker, in about 2 weeks, though, as you are aware, there is a transition taking place at TSC, so we'll try and see that that is done within the next 2 weeks.
Honorable Senators, let's now go to the next question, question 064, to be asked by Senator Boni Karwane. Doctor, you do one thing at a time. If you're in the Senate, you just be cautious and you listen to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
You cannot serve your constituents from the chamber. So go directly and ask your question.
Mr. Speaker, they are very watchful these days. You know, I represent a county where over 60% are the youth, and where literacy levels is 91%, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, they follow us real time. But thanks for accommodating me. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, can you allow me to just throw in a little question on a very important issue that you had raised before I asked this question, the one that has just ended? Yes. Minister, please help us. We are under a lot of pressure as political leaders from our youth, for good reason. Just a few days ago, a minister is reported to have conned the youth for employment abroad. And now, the trouble we are under at the moment, Minister, help us, is that we hear leaders are selling forms for employment to these young people to be employed as teachers. If you have that kind of information, please make a public statement so that you protect all these senators who I know none of them has sold any letter because they don't even have them. Mr. Speaker, my question is as follows, my substantive one, is that when will the government review the remuneration of primary school teachers to reflect their now expanded responsibilities under the competency-based curriculum and or competency-based education, which now include overseeing pre-primary, primary, and junior secondary schools? And two, could the Cabinet Secretary also state whether workload assessment and job evaluation have been done to inform such a review? And if so, could you please provide details of the same?
Yes, Mr. CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will, as a ministry, endeavor to work with you to ensure that such issues like selling of forms, which is a criminal activity, is actually dealt with and sorted out, because we need to be doing things right, and we need to just take the responsibility for doing right things. So we will work together and ensure that that is sorted out. That's why we are saying, if we get the right data from TSC, when the employment is being done, everybody would know that this is the number that is available, and the information is there on a portal on the touch of a button, and there are no dark spaces in various places where then you do not get the information that is required. And even the public would know exactly what is going on. So to your question, Mr. Speaker, the Commission signed the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement with the teachers' unions in the public sector. The CBA stipulates the terms of service of the teachers in the public sector, including the remuneration of head teachers in our primary schools. The 2021-2025 CBA, which will terminate on 30th of June 2025. To this end, the Commission has commenced negotiations for the 2025-2029 CBA in line with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission guidelines. Accordingly, in line with Article 234B of the Constitution, the Commission has submitted proposal to CRC, together with the request to conduct job evaluation in the public teaching sector, noting the new learning areas under CBC in order for it to inform the kind of remuneration that the teachers should get with this added responsibility. Mr. Speaker, to the second part of the question, the Commission and SRC are planning to conduct a comprehensive job evaluation in the financial year 25-26 for the entire teaching service to ascertain the work of every job in the teaching service. The need for job evaluation has been informed by the change in the job content, the input and output factors, as well as the new jobs introduced by the competency-based education. The same will be done in a collaborative manner, and all the stakeholders will be involved as required by law. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni, Dr. Boni Karwale.
Mr. Speaker, that is a straightforward answer, and I thank the Minister. But please, in your review, do consider bringing into consideration the new things introduced, including deductions for housing, increased deductions for SHA. It's not nice in communities like mine, where we've got a huge population of teachers, to see young people earning a salary, Mr. Minister, of 3,000 shillings after all deductions are done. We are treating our workers very badly, and they take care of our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's get supplementary questions from Senator Joe Nyutu and then Gloria Orwoba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my question is related to the question by the Senator for Kakamega to the CS. That because now under junior secondary or junior school as it's referred, that Mr. Speaker, the content there, the syllabus is basically high school syllabus. And so the teachers teaching in junior secondary, and I'm aware that they are qualified as they are secondary school teachers. But do we have we done enough assessment? Have we sent enough teachers to handle different subjects because of subject specialization, Mr. CS? Exactly what is the position in our junior secondary schools as far as handling subjects is concerned? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a supplementary question. Congratulations, Waziri, for the work that you're doing in that ministry. I am privileged to know that you are working silently but serving Kenyans. My supplementary question is that you have mentioned that there's going to be, you have started conversations in terms of the 2025-2029 CBA. And I was wondering, is there consideration for learning and development for these teachers in terms of, I know you are negotiating the payments, the salaries and things like that, but we have had concerns where some teachers would like to be facilitated to improve on their skills, to improve on their education or something like that. Is that going to be considered when you're having those conversations? Also, in terms of the job evaluations, we recently saw that we had issues in terms of bringing outsiders to teach drama festival, and now there's even conversations on sports. When you're doing the job evaluations, some of the feedback that we got as leaders is that the teachers who are talented or who are skilled in terms of sports or creative arts, they don't get remunerated. So therefore they say, we are not going to do an additional task that is going to be outsourced anyway. So in these job evaluations, can there be considerations such that those teachers who are actually within the creative arts can actually be considered and treated in a manner where their skill, their art or sports or whatever can be appreciated and incentivized? That way, we can then say that we have qualified teachers who can train drama. Because as it stands now, we are getting drama teachers from the creative arts outside, because most of the teachers don't have that skill, and the ones who have the skill are not compensated for it. So that is my additional question. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, we are in the month of May, which is the Mental Health Awareness Month, Mr. Speaker. And by mentioning that, I give my question to the CS. Because CBC brought about a lot of responsibilities, administrative responsibilities, to the teachers, and especially head teachers, who are from a different curriculum to this new curriculum. Has the ministry considered the impact of CBC on the mental health and well-being of primary school head teachers? And what is it doing to cater for their mental health? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS, respond to those three questions, then we move to the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To Senator Newton's question, yes, an assessment was done to the content for the teachers who are handling junior school. And to that extent, a number of teachers have so far been retooled. A total actually of 220,000 teachers have been retooled in the whole of the CBC program to ensure that they are brought up to the standard to handle the content that is provided for in JSC and the other areas. And they are subject specific. But we still have shortfalls, we still have gaps. That's why we did an internship of 20,000 this year. And in the budget, we provided resources now for another 20,000 next year. So there is something that is being done to ensure that there is a retooling so that the teachers have the content, have the capacity to take our students through the CBC program. to Senator Gloria's question, we now have, for example, 3 pathways, and the arts and sports is going to be mainstreamed. It is no longer going to be a co-curricular activity that is dealt with on the sidelines. And because it is mainstreamed, the resources then will follow that mainstreaming, including the training and capacity building of those teachers to ensure that they're up to standard and up to date with the curriculum and with the training for creative arts. And the reason is we need to avoid a situation where you have outsiders coming into the schools to train our students, because then you do not have control over them, because they do not subscribe to the what you could call the code of conduct of teachers. So if something happens, then you see you have no control over that, and that is being sorted out, including creating facilities that would be, now we're going to have in schools that are undertaking this particular pathway. We'll be having theaters, we'll be having studios. Those ones who are doing sports, we are working with the Ministry of Sports to ensure that in our schools we have enough sports facilities to do that particular subject, so that it's not something that people do not benefit from when they are working on it, and it will be part and parcel of the job evaluations. Under the CBC training on the question of mental health, TSC provides information on employed wellness, e.g. counseling services, and this has been enhanced with the enhanced responsibilities. And as I answered the previous question, once the job assessment is done, this would come part and parcel, including the areas of career training or career teaching of the students, will become part and parcel of our training of the teachers, and various checks and balances on a regular basis in the institutions they are in. In fact, to date, the TSC has a unit that addresses medical issues of teachers, including other areas where teachers might be having challenges, including mental health and other areas that teachers suffer from. So I submit.
I will have this communication to make Honorable Senator Mbeti. Honorable Senators, we have, I'd like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting teachers and the students from Kamwembe Secondary School in the Tharaka-Nithi County. The delegation comprises 4 teachers and 99 students who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Honorable Senators, in our issue of tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Senator Mofaya, within 1 minute, welcome the school.
I can't skip the... Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This is Kamwembe Secondary School. Kamwembe Secondary School is in Tharaka-Nithi County. Welcome to the Senate. It's one of the best upcoming schools in Tharaka-Nithi County. Kamwembe, you are lucky you have come to the Senate when we are engaging our CSs on the matters of accountability. You have captured quite a number of engagements from the senators. This is where we registrate. You have been able to interact with the likes of Bone Alwale. Bone Alwale has been around for quite some time. He's one of the senior registrars in this country. You have also interacted with Kinadangwa, Karongwa Dangwa. Karongwa is a broadcaster who is also a broadcaster and a register now. So, and so many other senators around. You have also seen the former governor of Western Gishu, Senator Madago. And so many other senators around. We have also seen the new chair education, Senator Betty Montet. I think, Honorable Speaker, I would request you to allow Senator Montet to stand up maybe for Kamwembe Secondary School to recognize her. Please, Senator Montet, can you remain upstanding? So, Honorable Speaker, Kamwembe, most welcome. And once you are done with this session, of course, your senator will be able to interact with you and have a photo session. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Boni Karwale, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, it is not all the time and every time that children come here and find when the minister is here. Mr. Speaker, with due respect, understanding order number 1, could you request the minister to go and speak to the children behind the tent, and especially the fact that Mwembe School does not have a school bus, Mr. Speaker. If you could say something about that school bus. They have come with a matatu.
Did you say Mwembe or Mwembe? You know, Boni Karwale, the senator for the Rakanidi County is Senator Mofaya. You are out of order to arrange. Those allegations you are making out of order. Yes, Senator Mofaya.
You know, sometimes you don't have to blow your own trumpet. And now that Senator Arwala has just come to my head, I'm honestly requesting the CS to engage the school, and I'm very sure there are very many challenges. It's just a rare opportunity. Now that the CS, the school has been able to visit the Senate when the CS is around. So with the very big respect, Honorable CS, please, once you are done with this session, engage the school, and I'm very sure they are going to table quite a number of concerns that are affecting the school, including the school bus and so many other things, the infrastructure in the school. So I think I agree with Senator Lwala that now that the school is lucky, the CS is around, please engage the students. I think we'll get...
Senator Mofaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Mofaya, Mboni Karwale, Senator Boni is not the chair to give instructions to the CS. Therefore, that matter stands as it is. The next question is by the Senator for Makueni County, Senator Daniel Manzo, MBS MP. So I don't know whether there is any other senator who has been given written instructions.
Honorable Speaker, I have instructions to ask the question on behalf of Senator Manzo, who had to leave. He was actually here, but had to leave to go to court on an emergency. Thank you, Honorable CS. And the questions for Senator for Makueni are as follows. Question A, what measures are in place to ensure equitable access to free and quality education for children in marginalized and other underserved areas? Question B, how is the government addressing the shortage of qualified teachers and supporting infrastructure development in schools in Makueni County and in other underserved areas generally? And C, could the ministry consider implementing the school feeding program across Makueni County, which is drought affected and food insecure, to improve school attendance and address undernutrition among children in the county?
Honorable CS.
Mr. Speaker, to part 1 of that question. Mr. Speaker, the ministry implements various measures to foster equitable access to free and quality education for children in marginalized areas and other underserved places. These measures are underpinned under Article 53 of the Constitution, which entitles every child to free and compulsory basic education. The measures that are in place include the following. 1, there is a school meals program that we implement. This is a key government initiative designed to enhance access to and the retention of students in basic education, particularly among children in marginalized areas, arid and semi-arid, and food insecure areas. Some areas within Makueni County benefit from this program, and the ministry has adopted a progressive retargeting strategy to facilitate the expansion of the initiative to other undeserved areas. We are now working to integrate clean cooking solutions into the school-based interventions as part of the broader efforts to promote environmentally sustainable and climate-friendly practices within learning institutions. Mr. Speaker, we also implement the low-cost boarding schools and mobile schools program. The low-cost boarding schools are a strategic intervention that targets a particular catchment of learners in environments that may inhibit school attendance, retention, completion, and transition. The intervention assists the hard-to-reach and marginalized learners in ASAL and vulnerable areas in the country. These are learners who, due to various circumstances, including retrogressive cultural practices like female genital mutilation, forced early marriages, and nomadic lifestyle, are unable to attend to classes regularly and consistently. In order to ensure attendance and retention in school, in view of these challenges, the government supports their stay in low-cost boarding schools by paying subsidies to support the non-teaching staff in the boarding wing and learners' upkeep in the schools. Mr. Speaker, the schools are not expected to charge learners boarding fees. Government grants support learners' upkeep and subsidizes salaries of workers attached to boarding sections in the schools. The program started in 2016, and for the last 5 years, the program has been receiving an annual allocation of 400 million Kenya shillings despite the growth in enrollment. Currently, there are 486 public low-cost primary schools serving a total population of 144,845 learners. Mr. Speaker, learners who have been enrolled in school are saved from retrogressive practices like child labor, cattle rustling, and early marriages. This ultimately translates into improved transition and retention rates across the levels of basic education. The schools also serve as rescue centers for some of the learners who are kept in school and protected from the surrounding risks such as insecurity and retrogressive cultural practices. Madam Speaker, the primary challenge, honorable members, is the limited funding. As indicated above, the budgetary allocation has remained only 400 million over the last 5 years, even as the enrollment continues to grow. In the same vein, there is demand for expansion of the program to other regions such as urban informal settlements where children are vulnerable to child labor, early marriages, and insecurity. This will require an increase in the budgetary allocation. Program number 3 is out-of-school children advocacy campaigns. The Operation Come to School is a program that targets out-of-school children, including orphans, children with disabilities, married girls, street-involved children, and those in ASAL and underdeserved areas. Key barriers to their education include inadequate teaching staff and facilities, limited support for learners with disabilities, poor sanitation, and recognized alternative learning systems, child labor, food insecurity, gender insecurity, and limited use of ICT in education. Question number 2, Mr. Speaker. The government, through a multi-agency approach, is addressing the shortage of qualified teachers and supporting infrastructure development in Makueni County and other undeserved areas across the country. As at the time of this response, Madam Speaker, the overall national teacher shortage stands at 98,461 teachers. To address this, the Commission has been undertaking the following interventions. 1, recruitment of additional teachers. The Teacher Service Commission annually seeks budgetary allocations to recruit teachers in response to the national staffing gaps. In the current financial year, a total of 1,429 teachers have been recruited on permanent and pensionable terms and deployed to schools across Makueni County. Engagement of interns. To further mitigate the teacher shortage, the Commission has continued to engage teacher interns. In 2024-25 financial year, 691 teacher interns have been posted to schools in Makueni. Replacement. To maintain teacher staffing levels, teachers who exit the service through retirement, resignation, or other reasons are replaced to maintain teachers' establishment. In Makueni County, 348 such replacements have been undertaken this year. We've provided a table making the total of those additional teachers, teacher interns, and the replacements a total of now 2,468. The strategies outlined above are consistently being applied in our undeserved regions across the country, including arid and semi-arid lands and remote areas. These include targeted recruitments based on staffing gaps, replacement of exited teachers, and annual deployment of the teacher interns. Part 3 of that question, Madam Speaker, the school meals program plays a critical role in enhancing enrollment, attendance, retention, and learning outcomes, particularly in drought-affected and food-insecure counties such as Makueni. The request to expand the program across the entire Makueni County is both valid and aligned with our national priorities in child welfare, education, access, and food security. Parts of Makueni County are among the areas benefiting from the program, with selected schools already covered. It's imperative to note that the expansion of the program requires additional resources. Currently, we face physical constraints that have limited our ability to expand the program. However, we are actively engaging the National Treasury and development partners to mobilize additional funding that will help us expand into other areas that require the intervention. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable CS. We will now move on to maybe the next question is Senator Joe Nyoto.
Honorable Speaker, I think I need to ask the supplementary questions before you open it up.
Oh, you had not asked the supplementary questions?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Then I think, do you want to ask both right now, or you want to ask one now?
I want to ask right now.
Okay, you can proceed, Senator Kathy.
Senator Joe. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable CS, I have two supplementary questions. The first one is, why have you reclassified Makueni County as a non-hardship area for teachers? And secondly, Honorable Speaker, in Nairobi County, the most vulnerable are situated in the informal settlement. How many schools has the Ministry of Health built with public funds? How many public schools have been built in the informal settlements in Nairobi, Mathare, Mukuru, Kibera, and the others, to support the highest population of vulnerable people within Nairobi County?
Okay, thank you, Senator Kathy. I think you were holding fort for Senator Manzo, who is now in the House, but now the questions have been asked. Anyway, let's proceed with the Minister responding to that. And before, Minister, you respond to that, CS, maybe we ask Senator Joe Nyoto's question, and then you can tackle both.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question to the CS is related to question number B of Senator Manzo's questions. Madam Speaker, in junior secondary school, that is the particular level where students will actually pick their competencies. And you know, we have STEM, arts, and we also have social sciences, Madam Speaker. And what I'm referring to is that for students to be able to identify their competencies, especially those that may want to pursue STEM at senior school, then they need laboratories, Madam Speaker. And we have very few schools, especially public schools, junior secondary schools, that have laboratories. Exactly what is the plan of the ministry to see to it that at least every junior secondary school has a functional laboratory in order for those that may have a competence in STEM to be able to be exposed to the same. So it's about labs, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
CS, you can proceed to respond to those. Okay, Senator Manzo. You can proceed to ask the question.
Just first, I'm grateful to what Catherine Buma did. I was actually here, and a member's son was arrested, and I've just managed to get him out on bond. So the most important part of this question was that Makueni has now been declared a non-hardship area, yet we know it's a hardship area, and the teachers there are in outcry. What's the ministry doing about that, and could the minister give the justification for such a decision? Yet we know very well Makueni County is a seriously hardship area. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Then finally, Majority Leader, you have a question also?
Madam Speaker, a totally unrelated question, but you know, citizens are following what you're doing here. And somebody has just sent one of the people who employed me, which is my constituent, has sent me a text and said, please, I work as a police officer. While they paid the teachers who are involved in the marking of national examinations, the police officers who provide the guarding services, you know, the containers that carry the exams, up to date, 5 months after the exams were released, they are still waiting for their pay. So he said, please bring it to the attention of the minister so that those officers can be paid. I thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I think, CS, you can now tackle those questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the question of reclassification of Makueni as a non-hardship area, this is, I think, a general problem in the whole of government, because we found in certain areas you'd found one part of government classifying it as hardship, then the other part does not recognize it as hardship. So you'd have two officers, maybe a teacher and a civil servant in the same area being classified differently. So we've made a recommendation that an audit be done, and we have an actual gazettement of all the hardship areas so that it is harmonized. So with respect to the reclassification, I don't have clear information as to how this has happened. I'm hearing it here for the first time, and I undertake to find out what is the basis of that reclassification. But as far as our programs in the ministry are concerned,
CS, can you confirm within which period you will bring back that response on the reclassification? You are undertaking the period.
2 weeks, Madam Speaker.
That's okay.
With respect to our ministry, with respect to the school feeding program, we have a program where we are supposed to work towards reaching 10 million children. We are currently supporting 2.6 million, which is far below the children who actually require that support. So we'll be working continuously to reach that number, and that number was the target for 2030. So we are looking forward to get resources from both the government and our partners to ensure that children in the ASAL areas who deserve to get this program, and those in the urban informal areas who require this support, so that we retain them in school for one reason, to retain them in school as required under the Constitution. We look for resources to ensure that we reach that number. In the question to Senator Nyutu on the number of laboratories, this year in the budget we provided for a budget to construct a further 1,600 laboratories. We are also working with our SEPU, the school equipment unit, to provide mobile laboratories, and also working with other institutions, because we realize that some of the JS schools are adjacent to secondary schools, so they join together and use those facilities so that they are not completely left out. So as a government, we are working progressively to ensure that each and every school has a lab. We're also working with the CDF to convert some of those classrooms that have been done into labs for these students and provide the much required lab equipment so that they are not completely left out. We are aware of it and we are doing something about it. I've answered the hardship area, the issue that will respond in 2 weeks and give that reason. On the issue of non-payment of police officers who assisted us in the examination, I am aware that there was a challenge with the budget, and we've requested for some resources under Supplementary 3, and we'll be going to sort out the police officers once that exchequer is released. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Kadhi's supplementary question has not been responded to. The schools in slum areas.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes, true. The question of how many schools that have been built, public schools in informal settlements in Nairobi. I have asked the DG to give us that report within 2 weeks. I do not have the actual data, so we'll also provide it through the Education Committee, the actual number.
So what timelines do you need for that response? Or Senator, do you want to bring a substantive question?
Honorable Speaker, I think, I believe that is information they should be able to provide in a week. This is a question I asked earlier, Honorable Speaker, just for your information, as a question, but the ministry never responded to it. So I asked the ministry and the County of Nairobi. County of Nairobi responded on what they're doing. The ministry never responded. That was in the last session. So I believe it's information which is about the fact of what you have done. It doesn't need 2 weeks. It can actually be done in 1 week.
Honorable CS, in view of the fact that the question has been asked again, we will allow you between the 7 days to 14 days, but if you can endeavor to provide that information within 7 days, that will be good, but you will have up to 14 days to bring the response to the facts. I believe those are existing facts. You might not need to do much to get those facts. They should be existing in the ministry.
Well guided, Madam Speaker.
Honorable CS, is there anything else you would wish to clarify? You can give your closing remarks as we wind up that session.
Just to thank Madam Speaker and the honorable members for the opportunity to respond to the issues that are facing the ministry, and just to, really thank the members of this Senate and the members of Parliament for the support that they are giving the ministry in handling and sorting out the number of issues and challenges in the education sector. And I believe that working together, we will be able to resolve a number of issues that we are facing, and taking into account also the recommendations and suggestions that you've given to us. We'll endeavor to ensure that we put them into practice in order to resolve the issues, and because generally all of us are working for Kenya. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And to the students from this school in Tharaka Nithi, let me welcome you to Nairobi, and I'll be passing by to see you. I'm sure that having followed these particular proceedings, some of them might be ending up unseating some of the senators around here. But thank you so much, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Honorable CS, for the responses you have given to the House. It is quite clear that education is one very critical pillar, which honorable senators are very interested in, and I believe even the Kenyans. So thank you for the insights you have offered as you answered those questions. Now you are free and you are discharged. Thank you. Next order. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, consolidation of bursary funds for equitable access to education in Kenya.
Senator Karungo Thangwa, I believe you're the one moving this motion. It's your motion. And as you do so, under order number 8, You will have 20 minutes to move that motion. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to move this motion. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the motion, consolidation of bursary funds for equitable access to education in Kenya, that aware that pursuant to Article 53 of the Constitution, every child in Kenya is entitled to free and compulsory basic education, and the Basic Education Act provides that basic education should be guided by the principles such as equitable access to all children and equal access to education or institution. Further aware that many students in secondary schools and higher education institutions come from financially disadvantaged backgrounds, making it difficult for them to afford school fees and access education opportunities. Noting that over the years, various interventions have been made, including the issuance of bursaries through the National Government Constituency Development Fund, that is NGCDF, National Government Affirmative Action Fund, that is GAF, the Ministry of Education, and county governments through various county bursary funds. Concerned that, despite these efforts, school fees remain unaffordable for many parents, and the allocation of bursaries has been plagued by nepotism, favoritism, and political manipulation, lack of transparency and accountability. Further concerned that public learning institutions are primarily funded by the government through the Ministry of Education, and in the financial year 2024-2025, approximately Kenya shillings 656 billion was allocated to education sector, making it difficult to ascertain the specific funds granted to each student and the lack of transparency in the disbursement of bursaries from various agencies, making it difficult to determine the total amount allocated in a financial year, thus hindering efforts to ensure equitable access to education for financially disadvantaged students. Now, therefore, the Senate urges the Ministry of Education to, 1, audit the funds allocated to bursaries by both the national government and the county government, consolidate the funds distributed by various government entities and agencies with the aim of directing these funds directly to schools as supplementary capitation to facilitate the achievement of free secondary education. And number 3, calculate the cost of education per learner and make this information public for primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions, including a detailed breakdown of the annual financial requirements for each student across the country. Madam Speaker, we just concluded a session with the CS Education. How I wish he could have sat in to listen to this deliberation, because once the Senate, Madam Speaker, concludes on this matter, it will be taken to the Ministry of Education to at least implement on the proposals and recommendation of the Senate. Madam Speaker, I want to be on the record that we, or this motion, is not fighting bursary. Because, Madam Speaker, bursaries are lifeline. Without bursaries, so many students could not have attained education. Without bursary, so many children could not have gone to school. And without bursary, Madam Speaker, the rate of dropout and the illiteracy rate could have been higher than it is today, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are all here, or this motion, what it's trying to achieve, Madam Speaker, is one thing and one thing only. It is to fight discrimination when it comes to issuing of bursaries, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, who gets the bursary? The person who gets the bursary, Madam Speaker, is that person who probably knows the MP, or who probably fills those forms, or who probably is in the campaign team of maybe those who are issuing bursaries, Madam Speaker. So when we look at it that way, we see that not every child gets a bursary. So this begs the question, what do we do to make sure that the needy gets the bursary? The needy gets to go to school and to learn, and especially in secondary education, without paying any school fees, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Constitution, that is under Article 53, 1B, every child has a right to free and compulsory basic education. And secondary school is part of it, Madam Speaker. So if we continue disbursing bursaries the way we disburse today, Madam Speaker, we find out that sometimes the needy of the needy do not get these bursaries, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want you to remember that the bursaries are also part of the national goal of achieving universal basic education and fulfilling Kenya Vision 2030. So everybody agrees that we require bursaries. Everyone agrees that we need to send our children to school and pay for their education. So this begs the question, are we providing that within the current setup or within the way the bursaries are issued? That is the question I'll be answering as I move this motion, Madam Speaker. But before I get there, let's ask ourselves, who currently issues bursaries? Who gives bursaries? And how much is involved, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, we have NGCDF, that is the MPs. They give bursaries for secondary school and tertiary education to an amount from 20 million to 30 million to 70 million per constituency, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have GAF by women reps. They give bursaries between 10 million to 15 to 20 million per year, Madam Speaker, per county. We have the county governments, that is the governors and MCAs, they give bursaries, Madam Speaker. The Ministry of Education also gives bursaries, Madam Speaker. The President himself also gives bursaries, and his bursaries are in the Labor Department, Madam Speaker, in the Labor Ministry. So the only person who does not give bursary from the 6 people who are voted for by Kenyans, all the way from MCA to the President, is only the Senator, Madam Speaker. And that's probably is a good thing, because now we can discuss this issue from both perspectives, those who give and those who do not give, Madam Speaker. If you do the math, Madam Speaker, if every constituency gives an average of 50 million per constituency, and we have 290 constituencies, Madam Speaker, that will be about 14.5 billion, Madam Speaker. I want you to put that in mind, that the constituencies gives about 14.5 billion for bursaries every year, Madam Speaker. The women rep, 15 million times 47, that is about 700 million, Madam Speaker. The county governments, they give bursary from 200 to 500 million per year per county. We go with the highest, Madam Speaker, 500 million per year. That will be about 23.5 billion. The Ministry of Education, who knows, Madam Speaker? We don't know how much they give us bursary. The President, who knows? We don't know how much they give us bursary, Madam Speaker. And that's why I'm calling for that consolidation and making sure that we get to know how much. And Madam Speaker, if we can approximate, that will be about 50 billion Kenya shillings going for bursary, Madam Speaker. Now that we know how much, Madam Speaker, that goes to bursaries, Madam Speaker, let me now tackle the question of how it is disbursed and why this motion is very important, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there is a lot of fragmentation. Fragmentation means 5 people are giving bursaries, but nobody knows who is giving who, because there's no coordination. The president will give somebody in a certain constituency, in a certain ward. That person, the MCA does not even know who that person is. The women rep will give the bursary to a certain county in a certain ward. The MCA will not know who got bursary from the women rep. The MP will give bursary to a certain constituency in a certain ward. The MCA will not know who was given bursary by the member of parliament. Why? Because there's no data. We cannot be able to know who was given bursary by who. Even when the governor is giving or issuing bursary, Madam Speaker, sometimes you don't know who. Even the MCA, when the MCA now is also giving bursary, the member of parliament doesn't know who was given by the MCA. The member of parliament, the women rep, the president, and even the governor probably, they don't know who was given by the MCA. So this brings about multiple allocation. So if somebody is in the village, and as we say, his or her area is way higher, they will be able to know when the bursary is given by the governor, when the bursary is given by the MCA, when the bursary is given by women rep, when it is given by the MP, or even the president. So you will find such a person will benefit from every politician. Some of them even get more than they require for their students in school or for their children in school. So that's why we are saying we need to align this, Madam Speaker, that an MCA should know who was given bursary by the MP. The MP should know also vice versa, who was given by the MCA or women rep or the president. So that, Madam Speaker, we deal with inefficiency and duplication. Because if we cannot cure this duplication, we are losing money, Madam Speaker. And that's why this motion is suggesting, instead of sending an MP, probably sending an MCA, probably sending the president, or sending anyone, the question I asked here before on this floor, why don't we take all this bursary and put it in school, and especially secondary schools, so that we can make secondary education free of charge, Madam Speaker? What stops us from doing that? We can add it to the capitation so that you don't have to go kneel to a politician to get bursary, Madam Speaker. And that way, we will be able to know how much is needed for education. Previously, when the CA's education was here, I asked him a question. Do you know how much have you costed education per child? The CA said they don't know. So we even budget for things that we don't know, Madam Speaker. So this motion is telling the CAs and the Ministry of Education, calculate the cost of education per learner and make this information public for primary and secondary and tertiary institutions, Madam Speaker. And this is including a detailed breakdown of the annual financial requirements for each student across the country. We need to know, if I get to Form 1, how much does that child need to have his or her education until the end of the year, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are still dealing with the problems with the current system of bursary issuance, the favoritism, the nepotism, and politicization, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, sometimes I feel like crying when I see our mothers sitting on the ground, sitting on the soil, on the grass, waiting for a politician to finish their speech so that they can be given 2,000 Kenyan shillings to go pay bursary, Madam Speaker. We need to restore the dignity of our parents, the dignity of our mothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, that we do not have to make them sit on the ground for them to get these 2,000 shillings that they need to take the kids to school. That money should be sent to school so that that education in secondary school is free, Madam Speaker. We need to restore the dignity. The way we do not give politicians money for NHIF or for SHA, such that anybody who is having a cold here, Madam Speaker, anybody who has a broken leg, I have money here from national government, you have to go to hospital, you get treated, and the government pays for that. That is what we are supposed to do with education. Go to school and study, the government will pay, Madam Speaker. Because I do not understand, why does the government give you money to go pay government? And this is actually the reason why I brought this motion, Madam Speaker. Why does the government give you money to go pay government? It's like, Madam Speaker, I own a posho mill. I have unga every day in a posho mill. And instead of giving you unga, I give you money to come and buy from my posho mill. I give you 50 shillings, I tell you, come and buy now in my shop. Rather than just giving you unga, if I have to give you unga, Madam Speaker. So what I'm trying to say, Madam Speaker, we need to restore the dignity and as well bring about transparency. Because there's no public database. And this is what we are asking the Ministry of Education, that we need a database. We need to know, if I think about my ward, where I come from, where I was born, called Ngewa Ward in Kiambu County. If I go to the systems, I need to know who was given how much by the MCA, by the MP, by the governor, by the women rep, by the president, by the ministry. So that, Madam Speaker, we are able to be transparent and know who gets what, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of what the motion is proposing, that the Ministry of Education to audit all bursary funds issued by national government and the counties, we need to understand how much that goes in as bursary, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also need to consolidate all bursary allocation into a single pool. And I want you to understand me clearly, because this might be misconstrued, like we are taking the bursary back to the central government. No, that is not what we are doing. Consolidation means, if you know you have this amount of money from all the bursaries, then after we calculate the cost of education per child, this money is disbursed directly to schools as supplementary capitation, Madam Speaker. So that is what this motion is looking for, that we should give these monies to schools so that education can be free, and especially secondary education. Madam Speaker, this will reduce administrative waste. Remember, every bursary fund has 5% to 10% of the administrative cost, Madam Speaker. We need to enhance transparency, eliminate double funding, and ensure that most vulnerable students are prioritized, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm not the only one speaking about this. So many other leaders, recognized leaders, are speaking about it. The Chief Justice is on record, Madam Speaker, saying that this issue of bursary need to be discussed so that we reduce wastage. Madam Speaker, we have even Senator Osotsi is on record. Senator Chimera is on record out there, Madam Speaker. The Speaker of the National Assembly is on record. Even the President himself mentioned that we need to look into this issue of bursary. And more recently, Madam Speaker, there is an honorable member in the National Assembly, Honorable Pasaris, who has brought another motion, which is more like what we are discussing here today, Madam Speaker. We also have the minority leader of the National Assembly, Junet Mohammed, who has also brought a motion. Although for them, they are trying to look at centralizing bursary fund, which is not what we are looking for here. What we are saying is it goes to schools directly. We do not want to create one kitty where a child in TVET will be coming to Nairobi to apply. No. Or a child in Kiambu or a child in Kisumu will be coming to apply. No, we should not go back to that one single kitty. What we are looking for, send the money to schools where the children are, Madam Speaker. And you should not even apply for bursary. What for? We know you are needy, Madam Speaker. Education should be free, just the way it is free in primary. It should be free in secondary, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of Is this feasible, Madam Speaker? What's the legal and policy basis, Madam Speaker? I highlighted Article 53 of the Constitution, that it is a right for a child to get education, Madam Speaker. It is in the Basic Education Act, Madam Speaker, that its equity and access are guiding principles, Madam Speaker. Even Public Finance Management
Allow him 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Even Public Finance Management Act support fund consolidation and accountability. And of course, Vision 2030, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what does success look like? One transparent bursary system that is supplementary capitation that is given directly to the schools. It is even better for children to apply for bursary in their schools, Madam Speaker, rather than in their villages or rather than at the mercy of any politician, Madam Speaker. We need to have a digitized beneficiary tracking system and audit trails, Madam Speaker, so that we are able to know who gets what when it comes to bursary allocation. Madam Speaker, I call all the senators to support this motion. We owe it to the children of Kenya to remove financial barriers to education. This is not a partisan motion. It is a motion for equity, accountability, and national cohesion, Madam Speaker. A consolidated bursary system is the only way to ensure no deserving student is left behind. Madam Speaker, I move. I take this opportunity to call upon the seconder of the motion, Senator for Vihiga, Senator Osotsi. Thank you.
Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, from the onset, let me say that I fully support this motion, and I want to say that I second this motion because it's a very, very progressive motion. The motion to consolidate all bursary programs into one program is very progressive, as explained by the mover of this motion, the Senator for Kiambu. Madam Speaker, as you know that I'm the chair of the County Public Investment and Special Funds Committee. And we, for the last 2 years, we have been dealing with the audit reports for bursary funds in our counties. And we have tabled numerous reports on this floor, and I can tell you that the picture coming from those reports is not good. This money that we give as bursary funds are being misapplied, misappropriated in our counties. And we have given recommendations, and one of the recommendations we have given is the need to align those bursary funds to the law and consolidate bursary funds. Madam Speaker, some of us went to school through bursary funds when bursary was working. I remember, Madam Speaker, at the university, I was one of the beneficiaries of the Ratanzi Education Bursary Fund. And they were really, really looking for the needy students, the students who truly were needy. But now, progressively, Madam Speaker, we are seeing a situation where people are being given bursary even if they are not needy. Everyone is being given bursary, and it's for political purposes, to the extent that one student is given 2,000 shillings. Madam Speaker, what do you do with 2,000 shillings? It is because the members of parliament who run the CDF bursaries are using it for political manipulation. And if you do not support them, they deny you bursary. The scheme that Honorable Thangwa is proposing will eradicate political manipulation, where bursaries will be given to the most needy students. Madam Speaker, even as we think about consolidation, I think it is important for us to rethink the policy on fees, so that we have a free education policy from nursery, ECD, to university. Madam Speaker, if a poor country like Burkina Faso can wake up one day and declare that there is no fees payment in school, and it's working, and a country like Kenya cannot do that, Madam Speaker, I think it's important that even as we talk about consolidation of bursary programs, we should also talk about how we can have a free education policy in this country. Madam Speaker, even as we are talking about bursaries and CDF, currently there is a public participation exercise that is being conducted by members of the National Assembly. That exercise is unconstitutional because the MPs are mobilizing their supporters to meet in CDF offices and guiding the process. This should have been an open exercise where even senators should participate, because one of the issues they are raising is the issue of Senate Oversight Fund. How are they able to conduct a public participation talking about Senate Oversight Fund without the input of senators? Madam Speaker, that is a debate we are going to engage in, because this is unconstitutional and the Senate is not fully involved.
Honorable
Madam
Senators,
Speaker, I second.
Honorable Senators, it is now 1 p.m. Time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until later today, Wednesday, 7th May 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.